how it started, how it's going. Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka Baby Yolo, and I'm so hyped to talk about Season 2 of The Mandalorian. It's been a long time coming in a galaxy far, far away, and if you want a quick catch up just before we get into it, then make sure you watch our Season 1 recap, which will be linked in the description. Anyway, I think I can safely say that this is the best episode in the show's history, and we start with Mando going to meet an Abyssins known as Gor Karesh. After the Krayt on Navarro was wiped out by Moff Gideon's forces, Mando has been attempting to track down other Mandalorians in the galaxy, and through Gor he learns of one on Tatooine who lives as a marshal in the village of Mos Pelgo. Mando wants to find his kind in order to use them to chart a path through the network of coverts, and this will allow him to reunite Baby Yoda with the Jedi. Now this introduction, and well the episode itself, is packed with Easter eggs and amazing reveals. We see the pair wandering through the streets and notice graffiti on the wall that looks like C-3PO, as well as a stormtrooper that has been crossed out. To the right also appears a rebel symbol, as well as what could be Darth Vader's mask and some Jawas. The bouncer at the nightclub is a Twi'lek, and we also see that the two fighters are Gamorreans using electrified stun axes. Karesh actually shoots the big, more intimidating one, basically cheating in order to win, and this thematically sets up the overall arc of the entry, in which Mando must use his smarts to take down a giant Krayt dragon. Is that a reach? It is now. Anyway, Gor wants nothing more than Mando's Beskar armor, and we later see this mirrored in Mando when he tries to take back the armor of Boba Fett from the Marshal on Mos Pelgo. We learn that since the Mandalorians have started to die out, that Beskar has become infinitely more valuable, and thus Gor has been harvesting it from Mandalorian hives that are pocketed throughout the galaxy. Gor and his crew turn their guns on Mando, but he manages to defeat them quickly by using the whistling birds from Season 1. Mando strings up the character and promises not to kill him if he hands over the info, but he leaves him hanging for the wild dogs in the area, and it's the perfect way to start the entry. Cut to Tatooine, and Mando revisits the hangar from episode 5 of Season 1. Here he reunites with Peli Motto and her pit droids, and we also see the return of a big Star Wars character. That is R5. If you cast your mind back to A New Hope, R5 was actually the droid that Luke bought, but due to its bad motivation, he settled on R2-D2 instead. There actually exists a fan theory that R5 is the true saviour of the galaxy, and that he was aware of just how valuable R2-D2 really was, and self-sabotaged in order to fulfill his destiny. I'm not joking either. Whether you believe that or not, which I definitely do, it's great to see it back, and Peli gives Mando a speeder bike as he heads out to Mos Pelgo. Mando camps with some Tusken raiders, and also comes across some Womp Rats as he enters the village. I think they're Womp Rats anyway, the design changes every 3 minutes, so let me know if there's something else. Now, we learn that Mos Pelgo was a mining settlement that dated back before the Empire took over. After the destruction of the second Death Star, the village was raided by the Mining Collective, and Kyle, played by Timothy Olyphant, only managed to barely escape. When wandering in the desert, he was found by some Jawas, and using one of the microtransaction tanks from Battlefront 2, he bought Boba Fett's armor and returned to the village to take out the Collective. Since then, he's taken care of the village himself and become its marshal. Now your first question probably is, how did the Jawas get the armor? Well, we learn at the end of the episode that Boba Fett is actually alive, and he was likely the boots that we saw approaching Fennec Shand at the end of episode 5 in Season 1. As for how he survived, in pretty much every version of the character's resurrection, he came out the same way. However, for this breakdown we're going to be focusing on The Tale of Boba Fett by J.D. Montgomery. This book was published in 1996, and it pretty much centers around how Fett escaped the Sarlacc. Now upon landing in the creature, Fett awakened the consciousness within it, which we learn was one of its first victims, a Choi known as Susejo. Because he was one of the first creatures that the Sarlacc ever ate, his mind melded with the pit, and it was as much him as he was it. The Choi had pretty much become its brain, and over millennia it had existed by injecting its prey with neurotoxins, and then it slowly digested them with its stomach acids. Fett was able to communicate with it telepathically, and during this time he learned of its past. Fett knew if he was able to fool Susejo that he could escape, and thus he began to enact his plan. Fett tricked the creature into wrapping itself around his jetpack, which then exploded, hurtling him free of the monster's tentacles. Using a concussion grenade, he was able to escape through a wall in the creature, and the rest is history. Now, whether they go this route or not, we don't know, but it's been in the lore for so long, I think that they're going to stick to it. Olifant pretty much looks like a cosplayer version of the character, but you know what, for a good minute, I was hoping that he was actually the real Boba. Now, the Marshall storyline sort of plays on some of the expanded universe, and in that, others did adopt the armor, even a sheriff at one point that Fett had to beat in order to get it back. We could talk about that forever, but I just want to focus on the episode for now. Now, we get our first hint that he isn't a real Mandalorian when he removes his helmet, and he and Mando almost go head to head until their fight is broken up by the arrival of a Krayt dragon, which we learn has been terrorizing the village. Feasting on banthas, it's caused havoc in the area, and Krayt dragons are actually a big part of Star Wars mythos. You've probably seen their skeletons dotted about Tatooine, and these large carnivorous reptiles have been hunted for millennia due to the valuable pearls that exist within their bodies. The Mandalorians themselves have a long and rich history, and Kyle and Din Djarin make a deal to team up in order to take it down. I love how Baby Yoda pretty much spends this episode hiding in pots and its crib, and yeah, it's still as cute as ever, even though it's 1 year older. Now they head out to where it lives, and Kyle actually rides on top of what looks like Anakin's pod racer engine from the Phantom Menace. It's seen better days, and Kyle has modified this into a speeder, which hints to his scavenging capabilities. Whilst traversing, they wander into Tusken territory and are almost attacked by their dogs, but as we know, Mando can talk to them, and thus they instead settle for the night. Their camp looks just like how it did in Attack of the Clones, and I love how we truly got to see another side to them. Tusken Raiders are often portrayed by the fake news media as vicious savages. However, put your prejudices to the side, have some of their crap drink, and let the good times roll. See, he's not throwing a weapon up, he's partying. Now the Tusken Raiders too want to take down the dragon, and everyone just wants to team up and kill it. This is sort of where the Jaws similarities come thick and fast, I feel, as not only does the dragon swim below the sand, we also have a scene in which a Tusken Raider almost drops an explosive tank. You might remember in Jaws that the main character Martin Brody almost dropped an air tank, and Quint snapped at him, telling him how explosive it was. This was of course setting up how they would kill the Great White by shoving the tank in its mouth, and it's very much doing the same thing here. I thought it was very obvious that this was going to play into the end as they pointed it out so much, but you know what, yeah, I was loving the episode so much that I didn't even mind. They also attach ropes to the beast in order to try and pin it down, but these proved to be pretty futile as they did in the film. Now the squad head out, and the episode actually switches to IMAX for the confrontation. If you have a 4K TV with Dolby Vision, then you'll know how good this looked, and I was absolutely blown away by just how phenomenal it was. Mando gets thrown into his own fighting pit in order to take it out, and this sort of mirrors the arena at the beginning. Look, I'll stop reaching. Anyway, Mando kills the beast by letting it eat him, and a bantha strapped with explosives, and he blasts his way out of its body with an electrified rifle before blowing it up from the inside out. The village is free, the Sand people get their pearl, and Mando heads back to the ship with Fett's armor. It's at this point, and I knew they were going to do it. I knew as soon as I seen that double sunset that Fett would appear looking over it, and I tell you what, I was buzzing. He obviously wants his armor back more than anything, and I think the reason he hasn't gone after the Marshal is because he might not be equipped to deal with him from what we see of his weapons. Now, binary sunsets are of course synonymous with Star Wars, and I think this moment is very much calling back to Luke doing it in A New Hope. Either way, I was so glad to see Fett back, and it's amazing that we now have it officially confirmed that he survived. I say officially, but you know what, this could also be a misdirect, and the character may not be Fett, and instead it could be Captain Rex. We know that Jango was cloned and that all these clones look the same, so it could be a number of characters. However, due to the age, I am leaning more towards Fett, especially with the way that the armor plays such a big part in this entry. Obviously, he was a massive character in the Star Wars saga, and going forward, I think there's a lot that they can do with him. I actually want to see him and Mando team up, but he may well want to fight the character in order to claim the bounty that's on Baby Yoda's head. It's going to be interesting to see what route they go, but what an incredible episode that was, and it's got me so hyped for the rest of the season. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, so make sure you comment below and let me know. If If you enjoyed this video, then please check out our breakdown of the 81 best Easter eggs in Lovecraft Country, which is going to be linked at the end. We go over the entire season, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. Don't forget, we're giving away 3 copies of the Marvel Phase 1 box set, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 30th of October, so make sure you get involved. If you want to support the channel and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat to us on a Discord server linked in the description, or Heavy Spoilers on Twitter. Thanks for making it until the end of the video. You've been the best, I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.